This machine right here makes Bedrock breaking absolutely the simplest thing in the world on very large scales. There has been huge improvements in Bedrock breaker tech, especially the infinite loop breakers over the past couple years, ever since I made the tutorial for the Beppo breaker version 1. This one right here is by Kades. They have their own one overhead breaker that also has hopper minecarts here that can recycle the pistons. And what it does, it'll bring it over here, drop it off with this minecart up top here into the dropper line, dispense them out back down to a player, which will be placing the pistons right in here. Just like the Beppo breaker, this one does require bots, as you're going to be running more than one layer at once, and the only way to actually place blocks in the game is with the use of an actual player. So fortunately, if you are in a single player world, this is not going to be the best bet for you. You could, however, do this one layer at a time, and just not build the connection segments here that will, go across and do them all at the same time. You could also just set the full thing up with the first layer, run that, and then build the next one, run that. Obviously, the true potential of this breaker is running all 5 at a single time, which we will cover here. Just want to say a huge thank you to Kades for allowing me to make this video on the breaker itself. I will be also doing a survival guide here. I am going to be breaking a bedrock roof for an upcoming project on the AutoCraft server, and this will be our actual survival use case. That way I can walk you through everything step by step and explain how everything works in an actual survival setting, rather than just giving you this schematic here and letting you figure it out as you go yourself. So just like any of these other 5-layer bedrock breakers, you cannot just plug and play the full schematic. You have to actually work it in increments of 1 layer at a time. So we'll build the first layer, let it run for a couple few blocks. That way there's enough space to make the next one. Let those 2 run simultaneously up until there's space for the next one, and so on all the way down to the bottom. What makes this breaker so much more better than the Beppo breaker, not only because it's obviously 1 layer less overhead for that compared to Desu's old 2 overhead recyclable breaker, this one only has a single dropper and hopper line to dispense the pistons back to the player. Now, you may not think this is actually a big deal, but it is a huge sign saver, especially in setting it up, as well as, the ease of running the thing, because you don't got to worry about stuff in any other spots. And especially on larger scales, only having to make this line once will be a huge time saver in also the time to place it, but also the resources required to actually need this stuff here. One of the other nice things about this is the piston conveyor. If we compare this to an actual 4 game tick piston placer that we have seen in the past, especially in the Beppo breaker, this thing is unbelievably easy. I can build up this piston conveyor across a 1000 by 1000 scale in a matter of minutes because of how simple it is. Easily under 10 minutes, you could be able to place this conveyor across 1,000 blocks, which is absolutely insane compared to the couple hours you would need to do that with a regular 4 game tick piston placer. And not to mention, the breaker itself is very easy. There's no really difficult minecart alignments. I will show you how to align the minecart on this side, but the minecart over here, you will just place a rail down and break it, and that one's all in place. It will automatically realign it once it goes through with the use of this contraption on the right side here. So links to everything, of course, for the schematics, if you wanted to get your hands on this and use it for yourself, will be linked in the description down below to the Slimestone Discord server. And then in the Bedrock Breaker channel, this will be one of the second most recent ones at the time of recording for yourself there. So with Kades, they provided it in layer by layer sub-regions here. So what we want to do is obviously we're going to go move the schematic to a different spot. So what Kades did for this breaker is they broke it into different sub-regions. Here we got one for each layer, of course. What we're going to do is just turn off all of them for one, because we're going to make the one first, and we'll go into survival and actually do that. Now, there will be a couple of things that you need to keep in mind. I will cover this when we actually go through the survival setting, that you will need to include on the first breaker that are part of the second subregion and third and fourth and so on for each next layer. It's mainly just the sticky piston, this little slime bar here to this sticky piston, to this redstone block right here. That is all you will need from the subregions as you go down and down, as well as this bottom slime bar, which is responsible for pulling up any blocks that do not get blown up, as there is a small chance to have a block left over here in like blackstone or basalt in the basalt deltas. If they are on the corner here, it could happen where this block right underneath here is left over. So this sticky piston's job is to pull those blocks up. This piston will then push it along, and that will free up this one from behind from getting stuck. It is a very small addition, but it can save your breakers from breaking actually themselves instead of the actually Bedrock you want to break. Very, very helpful machine right here. And this is a very small addition. Now, it is something to keep in mind. This thing can only push forward 12 blocks, so you will need to maintain this if you were to break over large areas like basalt deltas that have the biome border on the edge here, as you could have a bit of a buildup here, and then if this doesn't push forward, then you will run into some issues with the layer behind. But if you're going to be breaking above anything besides basalt delta, you basically should have not a single block left over. This will just be a little precautionary measure if something does happen, but I've used it a couple times and that's never happened to me, so you should be fine, but I would always recommend building this just in case. Another huge thing with this bedrocker that I didn't really cover compared to the Beppo breaker is there is no piston supply line. The only thing you need to do is pre-place 2 rows of pistons, and if you're doing this on a 256 block scale, you will need less than 2 shulker boxes of pistons, and that will be enough for you to break the full Bedrock roof. Now, compared to the previous Beppo breaker, and that needed to be just under 250,000 pistons for a 256 Bedrock breaking scale, this is a massive jump forward into the world of Bedrock breaking with very little resources. So now that we've covered the breaker, what it does, what its main goal is, the benefits of it, and everything like that, we're going to hop into the AutoCraft server where we're going to break the Bedrock roof for the future project I was talking about earlier. Alright, so what I like to do before I start any of these projects, I'd like to position the schematic of the size of the area that I will be clearing out above the Bedrock roof first. So we have the side sweep 4-liter here. That's for a 272 block scale. So that's what I will be breaking in this video here. So it's something I like to do when doing these Bedrock breaking projects that is not required whatsoever, but something I have adapted ever since doing this with these 5-layer Bedrock breakers alone. I like to go to one of the corners of the area that I'm marking out and just pillar up to about Y200. Doing this will make sure we're out of the range of any of the Bedrock breakers and also a lot of clearance to, watch over the breakers from above. This is by no means required, but I found this is very, very helpful when making sure I'm following everything correctly, making sure I'm not missing any blocks or whatnot. What this allowed me to do is just to look up very quickly and be able to see exactly where I need to be, and everything is all aligned correctly. So now that we have that, I'm going to turn on this, go all the way over to that corner, then that one, and make a full square, and we'll be back for the next bit of this. Now, if you're following along, now that we have that all marked out, what we're going to do is I'm going to just take this pillar down, because obviously we do not need this anymore, and this will interfere with the breakers themselves. And we're going to just go back up there. We're going to go out 4 blocks from the corners in all of the cardinal directions. What this is going to mark out is our overhead for the breakers. So this area that I marked out here is where we want the full Bedrock roof to be broken. As you can see, if I go down here, we need all of this space down here for the actual World Eater. So all of this area needs to be fully broken. And if we just run a Bedrock breaker across here and go in, we're going to be breaking all the way to here. And that's obviously not what we want. So what we need to do is, this is the area we marked out here is our last layer that we're going to break. So if we go out by 4 blocks on each cardinal, this will actually mark out the area that we will actually be breaking. So the first layer will start all the way out here. Second layer moves in by 1, and then so on and so forth. So the fifth layer will go right here. So all we need to do now is just to mark this on all 4 corners just by going out diagonally by 4 blocks on each corner. So we got 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if we look across here, this will line up perfectly with that one, same with that one, same with that one, and same with that one. And I find this especially helpful when actually pausing the breakers as well at the very end. That way you don't break any more than you need to, especially for the first layer. All right, so I got that all figured out. We can go over to the other side over here. For me, it's going to be on the south side where the breaker is going to start. Just as the schematic is, you can rotate the schematic. You should be fine to do so. But for me, I'm going to just keep it how it is. Move it to my player over here. I'm going to just align this properly. So you will need to move it down by 4 blocks. That way these pistons are right on top of the bedrock here. I'm going to just move it over and position it correctly. So the first bedrock that actually gets broken here is going to be underneath this piston's head right here. So if we go right into here and we look straight up, you're not going to see anything here, but if we toggle this on, you'll see that is exactly where we have marked out. That's exactly where you want it to be positioned. Because the same time here, if we go up, you can see that the piston is right there for us. Now you will think that, well, that one's actually 1 block forward. Well, that's just how this breaker actually grabs this stuff. It actually will pull it back 1 and then go down. With the previous Desu one, that's a 1 overhead, what it does is the piston right above is exactly where the bedrock is broken. With this one, it's 1 back. So we don't got to worry about it. We're in the exact right position that we need to be for the bedrock to be broken here. And for now, I'm going to just turn off the rest of the layers because I do not actually need them. Now, of course, you will notice that this one is not scaled to all the way down there. What we're going to do is I'm going to just build up this left side and then move the schematic all the way down to the right. Build up the right side, and then we'll make the connecting section here of the piston placer. And why will I do that? Well, because I am pretty lazy and I'd rather not try to scale this up because that would be too much effort. But no, it's pretty easy to scale it up. I just really can't be bothered to do that, as what the primitives that I do vary in sizes, and I would need a bunch of them for all different scales, and that would just get tiresome. So the easiest solution is just to move one side all the way down to the other, and then you're good to go. I have also done this and made a full 272 block long version of the piston placer. That way you can very easily position it on top here. So there's really no need to make any sub-regions or whatnot for the piston placer, because it's like I said, it's very easy to stack and tile and fit into anywhere on this breaker. So now that we have this area all planned out, there's one last thing to do, and it's to get rid of these mushrooms on the bedrock roof, as they can get into the hopper minecart and then they will cause some issues with the player. If you just give the player some pistons, you can pretty much avoid this. Safest bet, there's not very many mushrooms on the roof. Just go ahead and remove them to start. That way they won't cause any issues for you later down the line. Future squishy here, the perimeter is fully cleared out. Don't mind that, but just as an example, as I do see a lot of questions in the thread of the post by Kades in the Slimestone Discord, something you will need to keep in mind if you are not breaking a bedrock roof like we did over here for the example. You will probably be breaking a bedrock floor in the nether or in the overworld, and you will have, probably if you do a smooth floor or you stop the perimeter early like this, you will have some blocks that are in between the bedrock for the first layer that you will have to clear out. And I cover what gets cleared out for the second and so forth later down the line. For the first one, you actually have to clear out the stuff that is on the path of the actual slime block. So it's not as much manual mining that you will actually think. It's only along the first sections of the breaker. So what you will need to do is mine all the blocks under the slime block down in a straight line all the way across your perimeter. Same thing here across this line here. Unlike other breakers, this one actually moves across this way first. It doesn't go that way. So you don't gotta worry about, mining this block. You can mine both of these blocks. Actually would advise you mine both of these blocks across the full perimeter. That way you don't run into any issues with that. But once you get those first two cleared up, your breaker will be able to run forever. This one, just a single line against this slime block in parallel. So all the way down, you're going to want to mine this block if there's any blocks in the first layer. The second, third, and fourth layers all have this little extra thing that I will show in the tutorial that we will get to in a few minutes. So just wanted to cover that, as some people may not understand why this gets stuck sometimes. It's done to these blocks right here that are in the bedrock that it can't physically move. You will need to make sure you get any of the ones that are relatively close to the outside here. That way, they're not inside the square that you marked out, but they are close enough that they could potentially cause some issues. But if they're more than like 8 blocks away, you should be fine. Just for safety precautions, I'm going to just remove this one. That way, we experience as few issues as possible. But just like that, in about a minute or so, we have the full bedrock roof cleaned and prepped for the area. Alright, so it would have been smart for me to bring over the materials, but I'm going to go get everything for all 5 layers, which you can do with the material list inside of Litematica, and get all that. Make sure when you're doing it, you get extra sticky pistons, and observers, because you will be needing those for the actual conveyors and the bottom bit here for all the sticky pistons. I would bring a couple extra shulker boxes just to be sure. So once I get all that, we'll be back and we'll be set up to build the first layer here in action, and I will show you how to align the hopper minecarts, because it actually is probably a lot easier than you would think. Alright, so now we have all the materials all gathered up in those shulker boxes. I have placed a decent distance away from the actual perimeter. That way we don't have to worry about them. We're going to do the minecart alignment, and I promise you it's a lot easier than you think it is to get this minecart perfectly aligned like this. So first we're going to do is we're going to place these first 3 pistons here. So this regular piston and these 2 stickies. You're going to get 2 immovable blocks. They need to be regular obsidian or anything that's a full solid block that's immovable. Place them just like that. 2 slime blocks to the side. First one is going to have the detector rail with the hopper minecart on it. Only use the amount of minecarts necessary for your size of perimeter. So a single hopper minecart can get 5 stacks, which is plenty for a 272 perimeter. If you're going anything larger, you will need, of course, more minecarts. Just taking the 64 times that by 5, and then see how long it compares to your perimeter length. To the left, you're going to place a fence gate. You're going to want to break the detector rail first. That way the minecart drops down. Place a piston that is facing into that fence gate there. And you're going to want to power this. You'll see that the minecart is now aligned on both blocks. We're going to then break this here. We're going to break all that. And we're going to place a redstone block next to this. It's not going to extend first because we had this movable block. What we're going to do now is then just break this. And you'll see that the piston head will actually catch the minecart there. Then we're going to go to the other side and just place in the blocks of the first spot here. So we have a piston and a slime block. We're going to place those here. We have the piston facing down with the slime block there. And we're going to place a piston here that we are just going to push into place like that. And then one final thing to do, place this redstone block on top of this piston. And then we will go ahead to be able to move this redstone block, as this one is now power in that. And then if you're using the most updated schematic, the observer is facing up like that. And we're going to place this piston with the redstone block right on top of that. That way we can remove our immovable blocks now, as nothing down there is going to get updated. So now that we have all that in place, we are able to actually go ahead and build up the rest of the breaker on this side here. And I'll come back once we have ready to build the other side, and as well the piston conveyor connection. Alright, so we got the left and right side of the breakers fully built up, so now all we need to do is get the regular minecart in place on top of this honey block, as well as the hopper minecart on top of this dropper line, which I will go and grab just a little bit for this intro spot right here, and then I will stretch this across the full length of the perimeter all the way down. I usually go about 10 or so blocks further than our outline. That way we have enough space fully there, and we don't need to worry about anything. So the one down here is very easy. You, of course, just can't place any rails on top of honey blocks. So all we're going to do is just place a block on top, then have the rail down, place that. That will pop off the rail if you use a piston for whatever reason, and then just drop that down, and you got your first one in place there. Now, it would be the smart thing to do this beforehand with the dropper line, but I tend to do things the hard way. So probably be smart if you were to replace this whole dropper line and hopper line that's above before you build the breaker around it. But you can do it either way. So if we just go up here, I believe it's on this block here. I turned off the entities, but I'm sure it's right there. Okay, yeah, that one, very straightforward. We just place a rail down, place the hopper minecart, and we're good to go. When you run the machine the first time, it will be partially on this glass block, but that is fine. It's just easy enough to place here. It'll still work, even if you just do that right in there. All right, so now I get the full thing pretty much done. I'm going to put the bot in place and show you that right now as well. So, like I said, you will need carpet mod for this, but you could also do this yourself. Just need to find the correct angle. So what we're going to do to spawn them in is just player, whatever you want to name the bot, and spawn at whatever your spot is, basin 45, negative 44. I have that bot spawn, and you can see it's looking just up at that corner, which is what we want. Then I'm going to just do player load 1 out. And then there you go right there. So I'm going to just hop into spectator real quick. I'm going to look at the angle that they have and go up. You can see that they're looking just at that corner of that stair, which will allow them to place the piston right below. Okay, so that's pretty much what you're going to need there, of course, but that will only allow them to place in that one spot. We'll obviously start the piston conveyor. So of course, if you have any other extra blocks here, you're going to want to remove them. And then now it's time to connect this with the bottom sticky piston row, as well as the piston conveyor, and tile that all the way across. So that should be pretty straightforward. What I'm going to do here is I have the full length of the placer that I have loaded right here. I'm going to turn off my regular Bedrock breaker ones. And I apparently actually loaded it in at the perfect spot, which is the first. So that we have this one that overlaps with this one right here, that way we know they're perfectly spaced out. And if we go all the way down here, you will see that these two actually don't connect, which is pretty common. So what we're going to do is we're going to just actually build this next one. We're going to move this one back to where this one is here, and then just make another one right here. Because of the push limit of the end spot over here, we can pretty much place a piston right up against here. So the closest this line block could be and still be fine is right here. As you can see, if we go and actually try to place this here and try to power the sticky piston, it won't actually move. This is trying to push 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And 13, 14 right there. So it can't do it. You can literally have the sticky block right here, and it's not going to be a problem. So we can put the line anywhere and anywhere. And you can make these things shorter as well. So the closest they could be is right here. So obviously we have this one here, and then we'll have this one right here if we wanted to. These are the closest this thing could actually be to each other and not interfere. And this would also work with this alone. Like we said, this piston cannot push no matter what we do. So yeah, it's time to just piece all that together, and we'll have the first layer completely built up, and then we will be able to run it. Alright, so a few minutes later, I told you it was very easy for this piston conveyor here. We got the full thing built up. So the last couple things we need to do before we actually launch the machine is, of course, give the player over here a little bit of a buffer of pistons. We're going to just drop them a full stack of pistons. That way they can pick those up. I know my player looks like it's looking straight at me, but it's actually still looking over here because I went to a different dimension just to show something off on stream. We're going to just have them. We're going to just take this command here for player load 1 use interval 1. What it'll do is it'll make them use an interval of 1 game tick. That way they can place all the pistons here and not miss anything. Use continuous will actually sometimes break, so using interval 1 is the recommended way to actually go about the bots here. So for my render distance, it's not actually needed to actually have a bot up here in the center, but what we'd like to do for insurance purposes is just to have a bot up here. That way the full area is loaded at any time, and you're not worrying about anything getting unloaded. This will be required if you use a lower render distance, of course, but if you have a full high enough one, the server we play on plays on 20 render, so we can say we'll go there, and this will still be loaded in. One last thing before we want to do this and launch it off, we will need to obviously add the spot to connect it to the second breaker, as well as this little thing here that will pull up the blocks if there are any that get stuck in between the bedrock, which can happen occasionally. So we actually can't build the full thing right now, as the final layer of the piston is actually, inside the bedrock. So we'll have to wait for that to go into the spot that it's mining out to fully finish that off. But just make sure you're watching it for like the first little bit to get that in place. It's not that big of a deal if you don't get it, but if you got to make sure before you run the second bedrock breaker that there's no blocks stuck in the bedrock down below. So the last little bit we need to add here is the AND gate protection. So we're going to just bring this down all the way down in a single slime block section like this, up to that redstone block, and we're not going to place anything else for the time being. What this will do is it'll connect to the sticky piston right here, which is part of the second breaker. This will only be removed once the first breaker actually gets returned back, and because that is the first one and it's the longest one, all the other breakers back behind it will be docked before this one has even had the chance to. So if you do actually stop Blazy and make a full length one here, what I would recommend doing is going over here to this and running a schematic verifier. What this will do is it'll go across and tell you all the blocks that you have missed. But what I like to do when I build this is I go back the layer previous and I can check it all while I'm building it at the same time. That way I don't notice anything else. And I've built countless of these breakers in the past, different versions of course, but I've made many slimestone machines in my time. So I believe we are all good to go here. If not, I highly recommend if this is your first time to make a few backups, even though it's really not that difficult to make one of these, especially if they are down further. It will be a very huge pain to fix it later down the line. With our backup mod, I'm going to just start, and in about 30 to 45 seconds, we will have a full backup completed that we can revert to at any point in time. Alright, so based off that message in chat from the textile backup, we have the compression and saving completely done. So all that's left to do is to click this go block here, and this will start our break-in. Everything is good and launched perfectly. You can see the first Bedrock broken is right under that sticky piston, which is where we go right down here. That is exactly where we marked out above. One thing that could be useful for you as well, if you plan to sort of just let this thing run in the background, which you can do, is we're going to want to automatically stop this. That way we have space for the second breaker. And this one doesn't just go off into the distance, which you can do. But the main benefit of this breaker is you have all 5 of them running at once with use of this AND gate down here. So to automatically stop it, you can place a redstone block in line with the side right here. And then once this leaky piston gets close enough, it will actually be paused because it'll be powered by that redstone block instead of just being QC'd by this one when it gets moved. So one thing you have to keep in mind is that this redstone block's position is 4 blocks behind where the bedrock is actually broken. So if you wanted to stop it, like we said on the back one here, you will need to place it 4 blocks closer than you actually think you need it to be stopped. But obviously, to make room for the second breaker, we only need to move it forward roughly 20 or so blocks. You need to move it forward. So what you can actually do is actually just count 20 blocks, go out that way, and you'll be good to go. And another way we could also verify this is just by moving this full section up until we have enough space to actually fit the second bedrock breaker. Yep, so right here we have the schematic in place for the next layer. As you can see, the slime is right up against that, which is what we are going to want for the overhead, because the bedrock is broken here. That is our 1 block of overhead required. As this is my first time actually trying to stop this without me being here, I'm going to just place these 3 redstone blocks here, and then in the next clip I will actually show you where exactly the redstone block needs to be placed. You would think it needs to be placed right there, but I guess we're going to wait and see. So I'll place these 5 right here, all against this line right here, and we'll see which one is actually required to in the next clip. So if you are building this yourself and you want to know where it is, I suggest you skip a little bit forward to when I come back and we actually have the next clip here to show off building the second layer. Alright, first one is completely done, and it was indeed the 5th block. So for the first layer, it's 24 blocks from here, so 23 blocks back that way, and it'll stop perfectly to give you enough space for the next layer here. But yeah, now it's time to build a second one. I do want to mention something for the second and all the way to the 5th layer. You're going to want to put an extra cart in here for your breaker size. You know, I can fit all these pistons in one, but if we get a single block that is stuck in here into the minecarts as well, we could eventually start to lose some pistons. So we're going to do the same thing as before. Line the minecarts just like that. We're going to place the redstone block behind there. And we're going to push this structure into it. I'm going to just place that there, and we are good to go. I'm going to just place this on top, that way we don't get to worry about any of that. And then I should be able to remove everything down here. I do have to remove that obsidian, so that wasn't the smartest block to place on top of it there. So yeah, now it's time to just make this breaker the same way as you would before. You already have your auto off switch here, so that should line up perfectly with the schematic already. This will be out of sync. That is fine. You could also, if you really wanted to, push this up and then you can get rid of this redstone block, but I can assure you, I've done this multiple times. This will work fine. So once you have the second one all built up and ready to go, you're going to want to break this redstone block, and that will be your key to start the next 2 layers, and these 2 breakers will work in unison. Same stuff as before, where we're going to align the bot over here and the minecarts. I'm not going to show this for every single layer, as that will get very repetitive. What you need to refresh your memory, just go back to the first layer and I will show pretty much everything there. But yeah, now it's time to just get this second layer all built up and ready to go. And we can continue breaking some more bedrock. So now that we got that all figured out, I'm going to just show you one more time the minecart alignment from this 3rd layer. Probably will not be showing anything for the 4th or 5th layer, just besides a couple of progress updates there. Let's just get this thing in real quick. So one last time, those 3 right there. Got that. We're going to get a bedrock here. If you don't have a bedrock here, you got to place an obsidian there as well. All that in place. So then you can see here, we don't have enough space. We have enough space to put the gate. We don't have enough space to actually put the piston to push it over. So all we're going to do is just go up like this, build up from the top, and everything like that instead. Still will work perfectly fine. We don't got to worry about anything. Place power 2 minecarts for our use case here. Just push that over, and then drop it down the 1. Also gotta push down the fence gate, of course. And we're gonna place the redstone block there, break that. And we're going to do the piston and 2 slime blocks. Push that in from the side. Line up this obsidian. Place that in. Then we're going to place that redstone block, line that one up. And then we are good to go. So you can do that for the other layers as well. We'll be dropping it down a little bit more each layer, but we only got 2 more left to go. But now we can finish making the breakers and everything else. I did forget to actually put the sticky piston and slime redstone block back section there, as well as this whole thing here. So I might as well just add that now. If you forget to do that, like myself, just make sure there's no leftover blocks in the middle of these bedrocks, which is what this is responsible for. We can check our first one and see that there is not a single one left, because we're all in another waste biome all the way across, even into the Soulsand Valley. We should be perfectly fine. But if you were breaking above a full basalt delta, you would probably run into an issue where there is a piece of a block, like a blackstone or a basalt, stuck in that corner. So I'm going to get this building, this 3rd layer up, and then we will probably just do a quick clip for each layer about the 4th layer being built up, and then on to the next. Alright, so I'm finishing the piston placer of the 4th layer here, all done and dusted. And I did notice that there's roughly 24 blocks or so between all of the redstone blocks. I would just make sure of it. I think it's 24 exactly, but I would always go like 22 or so just to be sure you're not missing anything. This is how I'm getting the numbers. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, see 23. So it's between 21 and 22. The number does fluctuate per layer. I believe it's 24, 22, 23 was the numbers. But I would just double check by doing something like that there. And something that I did do for the previous layer here, you can see we have 2 small short ones. Actually, for the this layer right here, we have 2 of them really close together, because like I said, we can't have this here. So what I gotta do is move this back a couple blocks here. We have that moved back. We can just add another 2 conveyors, and then boom, we are good to go. Everything should be all in place. Just gotta forget to not place the bot over here in the minecart, otherwise you're gonna have a little bit of piston overflow there. Alright, we got that in place. We are ready to launch the 4th one. This will be the last time you have to pause it to get the full 5th breaker in place. And then you're good to run this thing all the way down. And then I will show you how to place the redstone block to stop it. I'll explain it to you right now as I can. So you can see here, the last block that is broken is this one right here. So wherever we have the redstone block, it's going to break up until this slime right here. So we can see that the redstone block is 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks away from the last broken block here. So if we want this block to be broken, our redstone block's going to be right there. So in our case, it'll be 4 blocks shorter than that corner right there, is where we're going to want to place our redstone block in line with that sticky piston. I will have you the exact spot over there in a little bit, but for now, that is everything there. I've been, of course, placing the stuff here and whatnot in between the layers, but now we are good to go for the 4th one, and we can finally get the 5th one all activated and whatnot. It seems to be about 2 hours or so in between layers, so take that into consideration there. But if we have the auto stop, it doesn't matter if this thing goes longer or not, because it won't be able to move past that redstone block anyways. But yeah, with all that being said, I will be back with the fifth and final layer and show you how to stop the machine at the very end, which is the same thing that we have been doing ever since the first layer. Alright, so the last layer is basically done. I'm at the same point that I was from the previous layer when I started recording here. So we got everything all in place again for the final time. And you don't gotta worry about adding anything else to this breaker as we have built the full schematic. I think that should be fine. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in between. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 in between. So we should be good to not have to do that. If we wanted to test it, we could of course always just take out a couple. Test this real quick just by placing a couple there. As you can tell, we made it all the way across. So we can actually push it all the way down there and we don't gotta worry about adding another one, which is fine. Otherwise, if we wanted to, we could always just move it back closer just for security, but tested it and we're good to go. So yeah, that's pretty much all we got going on now. Now we just gotta take out the last redstone block here if we want to, and then go from there. I'm gonna just grab the coordinates of this block right here. So looking at 1403, 137, 2218. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here, be in line with that one, and just put it 5 blocks shorter so that we're in line with this one here. We should stop at 1 block closer, but this should be 1 block actually closer than we need to stop. But I'm going to just stop it here for right now, just to see how it goes. We should be right here. Yep, so our Z coordinate matches, which is 2218, and then 147. I'm going to just put one right there, just these 3 like this. That way I know, it's not going to go too far. As I'm trying to make a perfect square above this perimeter, that way it looks clean when we do the decoration later down the line. I don't want it to be overhanging by any blocks, that way it doesn't look stupid when we go to do that. Otherwise, I would have to break some bedrock manually, and I'd rather not do that. So yeah, that's all 5 layers done and dusted. Once you get around 2 of these layers done, you should pretty much be a pro at it, and I haven't really checked any of my alignments yet, but I'm fairly certain that everything has lined up so far. This one is in line with that. It's our first one, of course. Then we go right to here. That lines up, and then go 1 more diagonal down. Right to here. That's along with that. Our 4th one, right in this corner here. And then our 5th one, which is being broken right along there. Yep, right along there. We are all good to go. I was a little scared because I thought that I need to make it 1 more closer because of the area broken over here, but nope, we are all good to go. Got our 5th bot over here now as well. So we got all of them in a line here, all ready to place some more pistons. And then now all that's left to do is just break that last and final redstone block and let these go all the way across the perimeter. Can't tell you how much easier this is than any other bedrock breakers I've done before, especially on this scale. Usually it takes a couple weeks to break the full roof with, individual breakers and piston placers per layer. Now you can pretty much do it all with 1 machine, only 2 rows of pre-placed pistons per layer, making it even more easier to make in survival. So the moment we've all been waiting for, all 5 breakers working in unison at a time. You can finally see the full area getting broken down below. You also see some of the blocks are being broken down here because of the TNT. That will stretch across the full length of the perimeter. Yeah, everything is all good. So I've got a single block left over here, which is very good. And got everything all moving across there. You can see we're even going to destroy the blackstone as well as the basalt as this first breaker goes across because of the TNT rays are cascading down this way as well as over here. But they only go down to break the piston head of this one right here. It's perfectly aligned to do so. So you see, even breaks the blackstone and the basalt that are just nestled in between that bedrock there, so the next one can go across without any issues. So yeah, I will be back once this is fully done. I will show you some tips that I have to remove this thing in a fairly easy way, depending on what you're looking for. Personally, I wouldn't recommend risking anything with TNT until you're down to the last layer. But for the first 4, I will recommend setting up some haste beacons. That way you can instant mine all of the pistons that are up top there that are left over, as well as everything else in there as well. So yeah, we'll be back once this is fully all the way across the entire perimeter. It should be about 16 hours or so. I mean, it's taken us about 10 hours to get to this position right now. So it's we're not over halfway yet, so it should be roughly, like 14 to 16 hours until the first breaker reaches the end, and then you're going to add 2-hour increments in between each breaker. Alright, so the first layer is all the way down. I got my beacon set up on the edge here. You can space it out perfectly, and you can get 3 beacons that'll cover the full area for a 272. Ignore the background. I started working on the trenches for the actual perimeter in that episode. Yeah, everything's all good to go here. So when we disassemble this, we want to make sure we get rid of this slime bar right here. That connects the first breaker to the second breaker right here. That's all we're going to remove first before we do anything else. And now we're ready to disassemble the first one here, so we can... what we're also going to want to do is... remove the sticky piston right here. That will be sure that we can't launch the breaker off fairly easily and not, break anything here. And then now that everything is all taken care of over here, this is your new redstone block for right now to go across and start and resume the rest of the 4 layers here. We're going to want to take down the first layer before we do that, because of that side over there for the return. They are very, very close together. So now that we have the haste, we can fairly easily go around and do that. However, there's one thing that I like to do with TNT here, if you really don't care about it. We can just light that TNT, and that will give us quite a good explosion here on some blocks to be removed by the TNT. Just saves a little bit of blocks you need to mine yourself and whatnot, and then you're all good to go to just tear down everything else. And the reason for the beacons is to give you haste too. That way you can instant mine this conveyor very, very easily. Otherwise, the pistons would be an absolute nightmare to have to redo, and then you would have to honestly just use a TNT duper that goes across here and destroys them that way. But this allows you to destroy the pistons as well as the sticky piston line down below without needing to have a build up another machine, and the beacons are fairly easy to get as well as remove once you are done, and it'll help you on all 5 layers. So you just build them once, and then you can do the same thing for all 5 layers, and you don't got to worry about building another TNT duper 5 different times for the thing here. So yeah, now that we have this all in place, we're going to tear the first layer down. I'm going to show you a little trick over here that I like to do. That way I don't got to worry about clearing out the dispensers. What we're going to do is just push these minecarts to one of the sides here off the hopper line before we remove them. That way they don't go into there and cause any issues. Of course, we're also going to go and do like this. We're going to go layer, load 1, drop stack all, get rid of that. Then before we get rid of them, we're going to do dismount. That way they get out of the minecart, and then we can go and get rid of the first guy there. And you're going to want to be very careful with careful break that we have on the server. All of these items will go straight into my inventory, not into the hopper line, as of course we don't want any of the items to go inside the hopper line. So if you don't have careful break, I would recommend placing a full solid block above these hoppers like this, That way you don't have to worry about any items getting in the hopper chain. Otherwise you could have some issues back there. But if you gave the bot a full stack of full stack of pistons rather, then they should be fine and nothing should interfere with them, which is why we give them a full stack there, as there is a chance that some items like Bedrock, some items in between the Bedrock could get picked up by the hopper cart, so it's best to just give the player a full stack, that way they don't run into any issues when using the recycle portion. Another thing to keep in mind, of course, you're not going to want to remove any of the droppers and hoppers until you get to the 5th and final layer, because this line needs to be used for all of the remaining layers. But once you get rid of this whole thing here, just make sure you don't mine anything on the second breaker. Once you get rid of all of this, you will be good to go to break this redstone block over here, and then start the machine again. Alright, so now we have that all cleared up. One thing I would recommend going across and doing is just removing these final blocks that are on the last layer for the bedrock that are just right there. They shouldn't cause any issues, but there's really no harm in doing it, as it'll take you pretty much like a minute or so to go across and get rid of all of these leftover blocks. This will do is to stop any slime from getting stuck here, which I think may affect the last layer of the breaker, but rather be safe than have to make a one-way breaker for the very end here. And just like that, in the time I've been yapping, we are all good to go. We got 22 blocks that we actually need to move this redstone block here, so we're going to just count with 21 redstone blocks and then just move it all the way across. Something to keep in mind, we will need to actually make it on the side, not underneath like you can there. Yep, this is 21, this is 20. So if we go to 21, you can see here, we got 1, 2, 3, and 4 blocks shorter, which means the last one we're breaking will be right there. I just like putting 2 here just to be extra certain we ain't got any issues to worry about. I did stop it 1 block sooner before the first layer. I just like being a little bit precautionary, but as long as you count correctly, you'll be fine. On the off chance you mess up, just always put 1 or 2 closer like that. That way you don't got to worry about missing anything. But yeah, first layer is all taken care of now. Now we can just remove this redstone block right here and send the remaining breakers on their way. One thing for me, there has been a single block that has been caught by these grabbers here, so provided you're not in a basalt delta, you should be perfectly fine. And these are a little bit of a waste, but it's better safe than sorry to not have those attached there, which is why it is always worth building. So yeah, I'm not going to show the same clip for each layer. All you got to do is the same stuff, just make sure you disconnect this slime bar, keep the redstone block there until you're ready to actually launch the breakers for each layer. Remove them all individually with your beacon set up. That's why I very much love that easily. There's no need for any other machines. And to make sure you get no items that are in this dropper line, as that can cause some issues with some stuff getting dispensed that you do not want. So yeah, the last clip will just be once this is fully done for the 5th and final layer. So I hope this was very much useful to you, and you got your full bedrock roof broken just like I have done here. Alright, so the breakers are finally done, and it does seem that you do need a redstone block at the end to automatically pause it, otherwise your very last spot of the area will be completely blown to smithereens here. Because yeah, I let the last one go because I completely forgot about it as I was working in the overworld on one of the world eaters. So yeah, unfortunately I kind of forgot about the redstone block for the last one. I didn't place it when I mined up the other one. So if you do that, you'll have a bit of a TNT explosion down at the bottom, which is nothing to worry about if it's indeed the last layer. So all good. Somehow the bot is still there and out of the minecart. Lots of strange things happened over here, I guess, but now we're all good to go. To remove everything here, so I'm going to get all of this done and dusted. That way we can just have our giant roof completely cleared of bedrock here, and we can make our perimeter with ease. This is one of the benefits of breaking the full bedrock roof like this beforehand. That means that way the perimeter is much easier to do underneath. Otherwise, you're going to do tunnel bores for another ones. You're going to do other trenchers that got to fit beneath the bedrock roof, and those usually only go down a certain length. You got to clear out all the liquids by hand as well. With these Chronos trenchers that can reach all the way up to the build limit in the nether, you don't have to worry about clearing any of the liquids, which makes the perimeter that much easier overall. So yeah, I'm going to get this thing fully mined up, and we'll be back once we have everything all done and dusted, so we can see the full area. With this last sticky piston down here that was left over from the explosions, we are fully broken with the bedrock roof, all done and dusted. Just like that, you can do the same thing for your perimeter as well if you wanted to break a full bedrock roof like this to make another perimeter that much easier. And it's fairly straightforward. Once you get the first layer or so done and dusted, it's pretty much just a repeating process from there. And then the same thing, once you tear down your first layer, you will be good to tear down all of the other ones. Just don't forget the redstone block. Stop the breakers per layer, as this one does blow itself up. Unlike the Beppo breaker that I've done previously, that one will stop without issue and not worry about that. This one, however, there's a bit of an explosion at the end there. But we got the trenchers going in the background for the actual perimeter itself for the wood eater. So we got two of them running on two sides, as we needed to wait for the rest of them to be ran on this side here. So I will work on getting those, of course, for the rest of this project itself, in which will have its own video as of now. Of course, it'll start a bit late because the bedrock break-in is not technically part of that video, but it is still part of the AutoCraft series here. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed everything, and I was thorough with everything enough for you. That way you could follow this tutorial yourself. If you do have any questions, of course, you can join the AutoCraft Discord. All the schematics will be linked down below, of course, into the Slimestone archive, which is linked you to the Bedrock Break-In channel for Kades' post there for all that, which probably has a lot of questions in there that are answered already that you may have thought of, but I believe I covered a majority of the pain points and a lot of questions that people ask about this breaker. So yeah, that's going to be it for this episode. Make sure you like, subscribe, all sorts of things, and I'll see you in the next one.